Welcome, whoever's here, for my little live video here. I'm live in my studio in Burnsville. I've got the lovely Anna moderating and doing the camera work. And what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go through the process of doing a movie parody or a TV parody for Mad. My first parody for Mad was in 2001. I did a TV show called Malcolm in the Middle. That was the first, what Mad, the people in the office, the staff call continuities. That's what they refer to when they're talking about movie and TV parodies. And then I did a movie called Traffic, and since then I've done about, I think I'm in around 70 movie and TV parodies in the last 20 years. So I've done quite a few, and it's a very specific process with Mad. It's not anything like any of the other stuff that they do. Most of the other stuff in the magazine is a writer-artist type of thing where they, like Spy vs. Spy, Peter Cooper does that all on his own. Editors are involved, of course, and all that thing, but the movie and TV parodies are a very specific process, and it starts out, of course, with the writer. By the time I get it, the writer's written it, the editors have edited it, the production people have done the layouts, and I'm the last step. I've got to do the artwork, and then I send it to them. Production goes through and puts the words back in and all that kind of thing. But in general, by the time I get it, there's been a lot of work done on it already. So what I usually get, the first thing I get is a phone call from, for the first 18 years of my time with Mad was from Sam Viviano, the art director. And he would call and say, so Tom, have you seen this TV show or have you seen this movie? And I always have the same answer. No, I don't have time to watch TV or go to the movies. So he says, well, you're going to do this parody, so go see the TV or go see the movie, go watch the TV show. There's kind of a big difference between the two, really. In some aspects, a TV show is easier than a movie, and in some aspects, it's the other way around. For movies, they're easier in the sense that they're only a few hours long, and it's a self-contained story. And so I just have to go see the movie, and the parody is usually a scene-by-scene sort of thing of the film, so it follows the story and the timeline of the movie. The hard part about movies is that there's no reference. Like, the movies are in the theaters when we do it, so I've got to look up, I download trailers, I look on the internet for photographs. There will be stills from the movie that they're using for promotion and things like that. Sometimes I can get some set pictures, whatever it is that I can find for reference. So it's a little harder to get reference for specific movies, for the scenes and the characters and all that kind of thing. But TV shows, it's the opposite. I've got all the reference I want. However, most parodies of TV shows aren't a specific episode, right? They're like kind of making fun of the entire series or the entire show. So I have to watch a lot of episodes of that show in order for me to get a sense of the show and all the research that I've got to do when I'm trying to do a parody. I get to write gags, like background gags, visual gags, this stuff that's what they call chicken fat, which I'll go over. So I need to be very familiar with the show. I can't just watch a single episode and go, okay, I got it. So there's a lot more reference or research that goes into a TV show. However, like I said, I've got tons of reference. I can actually download episodes and freeze frame it on characters, so I can get really get their look. And the scenes, a lot of times TV shows happen on the same sets all the time, so I can really get the sets. So it depends. One is a little harder in some respects than the other ones. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the process, and I'm going to use a TV show as an example. And the show that I'm going to show you the process on is the TV show This Is Us. And it was the very last parody that appeared in the New York version of Mad magazine. It was published in issue 550, and of course the next issue was Mad #1, which after they'd moved to Burbank and California. And the process did change a little bit at that point. So I'm going to go back through, and this is really the same process other than the introduction of some technologies that was followed by Mort Drucker and Angela Torres and Sam Viviano and Harry North and all the artists that did movie and TV parodies before me. So I'd get that call from Sam, and I would then start researching the show. If it was a movie, I'd go see the movie. And I would immediately go see the movie. I wouldn't wait to get anything more from them. What I really wanted to do was see the film as just a viewer. You know, how does this movie really, how do I react to it? What's my reaction as just a viewer of it? Then eventually I'll get the script and the layouts, or what they call the mechanicals from Mad. And this is the script from This Is Us. It's called This Is Puss. And it was by the terrific Desmond Devlin. So this is the script, and it's quite long. But this is the script that Mad sends me has already been edited. So in most cases, only the panels that I'm actually going to draw are in here. And there isn't a lot of visual direction in here. The intro might just say, splash page, Randall's house on Thanksgiving. That's it, you know. And I've got a 2-page splash, and I'm just supposed to have be in Randall's house. That's one of the characters on Thanksgiving. I get to do everything else. You know, so the visuals are completely up to me.
They're wondering if, yes, do writers or art directors ever suggest you watch a particular scene or episode to really get it to what they are looking for, what their intention is?
I don't know if you could hear that, but I just had a question. Do writers or the art director, you know, tell me to watch specific scenes or whatnot? That the script will tell me that. A lot of times the script will have specific scenes. Maybe it's some famous scene from the show, you know, or of course in the movie it's nothing but scenes. A movie parody, it's nothing but scenes. So I'll obviously have to watch those scenes. But they don't tell me that ahead of time. I just get the script, and then I read through the script to get to know exactly what it is I'm supposed to be doing. So yes, sometimes there are specific scenes, and if I have to go back to watch an episode and see this particular scene, I will. Because visually, there's a lot of things I'm trying to do at the same time when you do a movie parody. Sam used to say it's like juggling. You had to keep all these balls in the air at the same time. And one of them is just capturing the visuals of whatever it is you're doing. So some movies are very dark, you know, like film noir sort of things with lots of shadows and darkness. Some of them are very bright and colorful. TV shows kind of shot the same way. You know, some TV shows are very static. They happen in 1 or 2 different sets, and some of them are very cinematic. They happen, you know, all over the place, and they're almost like mini movies. So I'm trying to capture the visuals a little bit. So if something's very dark, I'm going to use a lot of shadows in the art. You know, I'm going to maybe do some silhouettes and things like that, and use dark colors. So that's very important. I'm thinking about that. And then, of course, I also have to do what's called selling the gag, which I'll get into in a minute too, and a whole bunch of other things. Draw the caricatures, do the storytelling, all that sort of stuff. But once I've got the script and I've read through it, then I will go back and watch the movie again. Now, having seen the script and I know exactly what it is I need to draw, I'll watch the movie again, or in this particular case, it's a TV show. I'll have probably continued to watch the show. I'll remember certain scenes, but I'm going to watch the show a little bit as I do this, so I, you know, continue to get refreshed with the visuals. The other thing that Mad will send me, let me come on over here, is what are called the mechanicals, or the layouts. And this is just a couple of pages from the This Is Us parody. And so these are the layouts or the mechanicals that I get sent. Here's the splash page, and here's pages 2 and 3, and there was also a 4 and 5 from this one. I only printed these out here to show you. But as you can see, all the word balloons are in place, right? Everything is set. This is my area for art. Now, normally in comic books, usually the writer just gives you a script, gives the artist a script and says, this is the action, this is the basic dialogue that's happening, and the artist designs the page. And then that goes back to the writer, and then the writer will we'll do the word balloons, and maybe change the dialogue to match some of the art. It's more of a collaborative, sort of a back and forth effort. With these, it's absolutely the writer's job is done. That they don't get to go back and do any editing. That all has already happened. These word balloons can't be moved around. Mad's very specific about that sort of thing. If you look real close, you can see that all the connecting boxes are already in place as well. The only things missing are the word tails, the tails from the word balloons that go down to the characters. And of course I have to put those in because they're not quite sure where the character's going to be. But this sort of thing creates a real puzzle, because each of these word balloons is being spoken by a particular character, right? So I have to put that character by their word balloon. So in a lot of ways, there's a lot of restrictions and things that are kind of forced on me in order to make this work. And in a lot of cases, especially splash pages, which are usually big group scenes, it's very much like a puzzle. And I have to try to figure out how to make this work. So that's the layout part. And in the case of the different story pages, this is like more traditional comic book storytelling. So I have to think about composition and moving your eye across the page from panel to panel while I'm laying this all out and getting all the basic artwork down. A couple of other things I've got to think about. Well, obviously caricatures, right? Because I have to do caricatures of all the celebrities or all the actors and actresses that are in the show, and I have to make it look like them. And it's particularly challenging doing it for Mad because you have to do the same person many, many times. And a lot of times doing expressions and kind of things that aren't typical. Like they might be yelling or screaming or crying or doing something like that. These characters are really acting in this parody, and I'm not going to have reference for all those expressions, right? Not even close. So I don't even try. My next step is I got to dig up reference for everybody. So I go on the internet and I try to find pictures of the actors and actresses. I need to have them in character as much as possible, but I can use like other examples of their faces if I have to help me with the likenesses. But in general, I do what I call a keystone sort of technique, I guess, for lack of a better word, to try so I don't have to have specific references for every single face. By keystone, what I mean is I usually do at least one caricature of a major character that I really did use a reference for. That's a very specific caricature. It's going to be really detailed and very likeness orientated. And the other caricatures in between those keystone characters are a little bit more of a cartoon version of them. So I pick out certain characteristics of those people's features and make sure that I carry them through in between all these keystone ones. But the keystone caricatures kind of fool you into thinking, oh yeah, that's this person. And then the next couple of caricatures might be a little more cartoony. Maybe they've got big bugged out eyes, or their mouth is really wide open and they're yelling. But certain key characteristics from them are being carried through, so it fools you into believing it's the same character. And then just when you're starting to get, boy, this is looking like a cartoon character, suddenly you've got another keystone caricature that sort of brings you back in. So that's the technique that I use to be able to do multiple caricatures of the same person over and over again without having a reference for each angle. What I do is I put together a reference of maybe 10, 12 pictures of each person, and I try to find different angles like profiles and three-quarter views and straight-on shots, and if I'm lucky, a couple of expressions. And then I'll use those when I'm working these things out so that I'm able to do that and make a convincing caricature all the way through. But let me show you what the next step is. We'll come over here to the computer.
John Kowaleski just came on. He says, hey, Tom.
Oh, hey, John. Let me grab this. So what I would do then is I would print these layouts out. Back in the old days, pre-computer technique, or the tablet type things like the Cintiqs, I would print these out on drawing paper like this. And then I would do my pencils directly on this paper. So you can see that all the word balloons and stuff are all in place, and I just drew right on top of them. This is the pencil roughs from the Mike and Molly parody from a few years ago. So I just worked these out in pencil, And this is what I would send to Mad to get approved. This is a particularly tight one. Like I worked out all the caricatures pretty completely. This is almost like final pencils, but this is what I would work, and I work at print size, so it's much smaller than the actual original art will be. This is how I used to do it in pencil. Now these days I like to do all these layouts, or what I call the roughs, on the computer. It's a lot easier, it works better. Come over here and show you This Is Us.
Roger Ash is wondering if there are any actors you had difficulty capturing their likeness.
Sure. Yeah, there's always a question was asked: are there any celebrities I had difficulty capturing their likenesses? Yeah, you know, you always run into people that give you some problems. You just got to work through them. You know, eventually, some of them come right off the end of the pencil, and it's like, oh, you know, no sweat. This guy's easy. The next one might kind of give you some problems.
What kind of printer do you use to print those sketch pages?
I use this big printer up here. It's an Epson 1430, I think it's called. Yeah, Artisan 1430, and it prints on 13 by 19 paper. That's the biggest size. So I can print out that whole 2-page spread at print size, all in one, and it prints out, and I can print it out on a drawing paper, nice heavy paper, so that I can erase it. But that's what I used to print it on this stuff. But I don't have to print those out anymore, because now I can use the computer, and I just transfer them over to...
We're about to get a visitor.
Oh, here's my daughter. Hello, Elizabeth.
Kid songs, squeak some all daytime.
Kid songs?
Yes.
Is that on her?
Squeaky.
Did you transfer it over?
It is over. It just needs to. They should be all on a thing.
We got to take an autistic time out here. Just a second, folks. I've got to.
We have to fix some videos for her. She likes to have them put on her iTunes, and we have to transfer them over, and then she likes to take them off our iTunes, and then we put them back on our iTunes. So that is what we are doing right now.
I'm trying. Okay, here we go.
Hi, Don and Julie. They're watching. The
songs?
McNeils, they know all about this.
Kid songs?
No.
Now Lathrop is now watching. Hi, Mel. Hi, John.
What do you want?
Kid songs, play some all daytime.
Oh, you want me to copy the kid songs over to Smeagol?
Yes.
Right.
Garrett Williams likes your Matrix screensaver. He has that on his phone's lock screen.
Kid songs.
All of them?
Country sing along.
Okay.
Like a Caricatures Plains.
Technology is grand.
Which one?
Caricatures Plains.
Where is it?
There it is.
Okay.
Did I sit tight?
Good night, sleep tight.
And is that it?
Is that it?
Yes.
How about a day at the circus?
No. No.
Okay. There you go.
Thank you, Daddy.
You're welcome.
All right. That might happen again, folks. The last couple ones she's been sleeping. This one she's wide awake. So.
All right. So this is the layout of the splash page here, just printed out or just brought up on my computer. So I'll do my roughs right here on the computer, rather than do them in pencil. I like to do it that way because it makes it real easy to like change things. You know, I can move stuff around. I don't have to erase it and redraw it if I want to make it a little bigger or smaller or move elements around a little bit. It just really speeds up the process. Then and also the other thing I like about this, by the way, is a Cintiq 32-inch Cintiq Pro, and it's a fantastic piece of equipment. I mean, it's huge, as you can see, and comes down here at a nice drawing angle, and it's really fantastic. So this is the story, or the splash page. I'm having technology problems here, folks. I don't know why. Oh, this glove is just a little smudge guard glove that keeps my hand from getting like sticky and, you know, sticking to the surface, so it slides on it real nice. lost my files there. Here we go. And so and this is like the 2 story pages that I showed you the printout of. And what I would just do is just start drawing on here. And usually what I start out doing some stuff that would be very simple. Like I'm trying to start with big shapes, circles for heads. I'm just going to do like layouts like this, where I just work out the basic composition of the panels. So I'm not worried about anything except for figuring out the compositions. And that's one of the balls I have to juggle, right? One, I have to do traditional comic book storytelling. So I'm trying to move the eye across the page, and I'm trying to capture the visuals of the film or the show that I'm doing. Another thing I have to do is what's called selling the gag. And all these word boxes up here have got jokes in them. And I need to do a visual that sells the gag, that sells those jokes. So whatever I design or however I draw this thing has got to make these jokes up here work.
What program are you using?
This is Photoshop. I use Photoshop for virtually all my artwork.
Hi, Sister Hannah.
Oh, hey, sister-in-law Hannah. So I will be working all this out. Started out very rough, gradually working up all the caricatures and everything. I don't spend a lot of time really doing like super detailed caricatures at this level, because I am going to redraw all this stuff on a board when I do my traditional inking on it. So let me show you what.
Do you have a favorite Photoshop brush for the pencil drawings?
Yep, it's called Splatter Brush, and it's a standard Photoshop thing. It's like not any kind of fancy brush. So here's my here's the layouts again. I've got the word balloon things already in here because I did the pencils, and here's the pencils for this particular splash page. So again, each of these word balloons are somebody speaking, some character. And so I had to work this out. This is the scene in Randall's living room. That's what it was called for. I'm trying to sell the gag in certain cases. So here, this guy, he talks about being just a piece of man meat.
That'd be Kevin.
Yeah, and so I've got him, showing off his abs because apparently he peels off his shirt a lot in the show. So these are little visual gags and stuff that I will add in to help sell the gags. Then I've got what is called chicken fat, which is a term that was coined by Will Elder many, many years ago with Mad. And it's all the little visual gags in the background, the things in the corners that aren't really part of the script. They're just visual jokes, and sometimes they're total non sequiturs. Sometimes they have, something to do with the scene. They might be cameos of some other character or some other person that's related somehow to the show or to the actor that's in the panel. You name it.
Are the splash pages the hardest or easiest part of the parodies?
The splash pages are the hardest part because, again, they're always something that's a huge scene. And I really hate doing splash pages that are montages, that have little elements to them that are in different areas or scenes. I like to do one total scene that's just all one cohesive environment, and that can make it difficult to work out.
I know you'll answer this later, but what color palette do you use?
I've just got this mess over here of a color palette that's just a bunch of colors that I've...
Sorry, it's getting... There we go, like that.
It's just, there's no organization to it hardly. I pick up colors here and there, and I add them to it, and it's just my own little thing, so... And
John Kowaleski saying, you say you still do your final pencils and ink traditionally.
Yes, I do, yeah. Do. Here's the story pages of the next couple of pages. So here, these are all worked out story-wise, and for storytelling, and I'm trying to move your eye around the page, and this is pretty well worked out. This particular one, these caricatures are pretty solid. But sometimes I might not even finish a caricature of somebody at this level. I would just do more of a circle for a head or whatever. And because like I said, I am going to redraw that later on the boards. But I want to add visual gags in the background. So, for example, sometimes the writer will suggest gags, but as the artist, you're free to either take their suggestions and do it, or make up your own gags, or modify that gag somehow. So I'll sometimes add gags in here that are just for fun, like I put Alfred here in the background as one of the babies in the nursery. And this one is...
That's a little like the coronavirus there.
Yeah, this is a... so here she's got, twins in there. So they've got...
Not Cronus, that's a lake.
And in this scene was supposed to be a Fatties Anonymous type... so I just have all the fat cartoon characters I could think of in the background. So just little fun, goofy gags and things like that. But that's my contribution to the writing, because the writer has written all the jokes and it's his story and everything. But the little visual gags are sort of the artist's.
Joe Goshik is wondering if you ever sneak a caricature of friends or family in on occasion.
All the time. In fact, I'm kind of surprised I didn't sneak one in, this one of Anna, because she loves this show. I can't stand this show. So it was like torture to have to watch this.
What is the file size of the finished pages?
Well, this particular one is, let's see. This has got some layers in it, though, so, image size. Like about 45 megabytes. So they're not very big. It used to be that they were, this is 300 DPI, by the way, at print size, and 300 DPI. So if I were to print this out, it would be the same size as the magazine. And I work at, whatever size when I zoom in and get tight in a few places here and there. But these are the last several pages of this particular parody. Right, so this is what I send to Mad, and they may come back and say, hey, you need to, work this out better, or you're not really selling this gag, or we don't understand what you're doing here, what is this about? So sometimes I'll have to make some changes, but to be honest, after 20 years of working with them, they know what to expect from me and I know what they want. So I very seldom have any major changes that have to happen, just a couple tweaks here and there. So once I get this back from Matt and they say, okay, you're ready to go, now I have to transfer it onto my boards and do the physical artwork. I don't ink on the computer. I've tried it, and I've seen people who do amazing work. It's just not for me. I need more of a resistance to my pencil, or the strokes that I do. I need that tactile response from the paper and the pen and the inks and all that kind of thing to get the look that I want. And that's just me, but that's just the way I prefer to work. So what I do now is I have to print this up at art size. And when I first started working for Mad, they had Lenny Brenner, the art director, was still, or he wasn't an art director, but he was still there doing production. And they would send me the boards to draw on. And I would get these giant boards in the mail, because Mad works at twice up, 200% of print size, which is about 16 by 21. A little bit more than 16 inches wide by 21 inches high. That's the size of a Mad page at twice up. So they're huge. A two-page spread is like 32, 33 inches wide by 21 inches high. They're giant. So they send me these huge boards, and I was thinking, man, these guys work really, really big. Been doing it that way since the days of EC Comics and Tales from the Crypt and the Vault of Horror and all those things. So who am I to say, oh, I want to do it differently? So I'm doing it at these huge sizes. Then later on, I started having to do my own boards, and I just kept doing it at that size. I'm so used to it now. And to get the real tiny details and stuff, it's a good way to go anyway. So I have to double this size of these things and print them out. and then I use a light table to put them on the board. Let's go over here and show you that.
So Jamie says, do you get any chicken fat ideas from your wife since she loves the show? You do that a lot for whatever show you don't watch. You reach out to family, to friends, and say, hey, do you watch this? What is very important that I put in there?
Yeah, absolutely. If I don't have time to really, if a show's been on for like 10 seasons, I'm never going to be able to, to watch enough to really become...
Oh, it switched. It's facing me. Switch it back. I hit something.
There you go, baby.
Sorry, that was horrible. Sorry about that. Whew.
So yeah, I absolutely do. I ask my neighbors sometimes about certain shows and things, but this is one of the pages printed out at Twice Up. So come on over here.
Okay, I was looking. What I was doing was looking for another question. There was another question.
But this is the double up printout. So I have to print it on two pieces of paper and then tape it together in order to get it this big. But this is the size that I'll ink at. Okay, and once I've got it printed out, then I take a piece of Bristol board. This is Strathmore. I think it's 400 3-ply Bristol, and I use my light table here.
Turn it on by that.
Yeah, and I put this on, and see, it's too big to even fit out all the way on my light table. I have to do it in sections, and then I tape this down, and then the very first thing I will do is take a technical pen. I use this one right here, a number 3 or 0.8 technical pen, and I go through and do all the word boxes, including all the little balloons and stuff. So those are all inked in first. And you see that there's like between the panels.
I did it again. I'm not touching
Stop.
anything.
Yes, you are. Here. That's what you're doing.
Okay. Sorry, people.
You're touching it with your palm.
I move my hand now.
Thank you. So then I'll use just a T-square or whatever and do these word boxes first, and then I'll go in with a pencil and start penciling things out. And at this stage, I don't like do a lot of really tight penciling here. I'm just going to really get the basic kind of feel of the caricatures. The caricatures and stuff, if I've really worked them out at that level, I'm going to make sure that I get them nice and tight. But really, I'm trying to stay loose with my pencils at this point because I want to draw with the inks. And in normal circumstances, I'll have my reference and everything up in front of me too, so that I can I actually redraw the caricatures, But I'm just gonna I really get the basics down so that when I go in with the inks, I can kind of redraw it. It's like it's you don't want to just trace your pencil lines when you're inking. You want to draw with your inks so that your inks have life to them. But once I get that all done and I turn off so I've got a very rough version of my page all the way done, all the way across here, and then I'll be ready to ink it, and I can show you the inks.
31 years, Manny. Says we sound like we're married.
So these are the final inks for this splash page, and see, these pages are so big that I have to do them on the splash page has to be done on 2 pages. So then I just tape them together, but I have to take them back apart so I can scan them, because then once I get the inks done, my next thing is to scan it. So if you look closely, I've got some mistakes I correct digitally here. Whoops, I inked through the word box there, some smuts right there. That stuff I'll all clean up using digital whiteout, unless I'm going to sell the original or do something with it, like put it in a show or something. I'll sometimes even tape up the words on there so that people can see and read the headline and everything if it's going to be in the show. But here's the final inks. Let me get the...
Lucky was wondering what you were doing with your left hand propped into your right hand when you're inking. That's a question you get a lot.
Yeah, I always do that. I have a very shaky hand. and I use my other hand to steady my drawing or inking hand. So here's the roughs, and then here's what the final inks ended up at for this particular page. So I did that penciling process, and then I went through, and this is all inked with a dip pen and brush. And I'll do another inking demo here one of these days on video. Sure to show you that process, but I'm just going through the process of the parody itself right now.
Hi, Brother Chris. Jimmy wants to know what kind of scanner you have.
Aha.
It must be huge.
Yep.
It is huge. What is it?
This is a Epson. What is it? GT 20,000. It's like I think it's an Epson Expression. Can't remember what the name is, but yeah, it's a 11 3/4 by 17-inch flatbed scanner. But see, these pages are obviously too big to fit on there, so I have to scan them in halves. So I'll scan this half, and then turn it around and scan this half, and then have to stitch them together so that, and fix them if they don't line up properly or whatever. And if I do a splash page, I have to do a quarter of each quarter of the splash page, and then stitch all 4 quarters together to get that great big giant splash page inks. But I scan them in so I can color them on the computer, because the final stage is, of course, the color work. And I'll kind of give you a little lowdown on how I do that.
Brother Chris says you draw nice.
I try. All right. So let's see. This is us. Where's that one? Oh no, that's the pencils. This is us right here. All right, so here's the inks all scanned in of that splash page. And I have all my inks on their own layer, so that I color behind it, sort of like an animation cell. And I usually don't color on multiple layers. I tend to color everything on one layer, but with splash pages, I'll color the background. So here's the background colors are all colored in, the drapes and everything else. And then I've got the back row of people with their paintings, and the front row of people.
A couple of really quick inking questions.
Okay.
Because I know you're going to do an inking thing later, but what pen do you use for inking, and the size?
I use most of my inking. I use a Hunt 102 Crowquill pen or a Gillette 303 pen nib, and then I use a number 2 round watercolor brush for some ink lines.
And then do you have the reference pictures around you when you start inking?
Absolutely.
Yes, many of them.
Yeah. In fact, because I do those pencils so roughly on the boards that I actually just redraw it, you know. But it's important because you want it to be very spontaneous. You want to keep the life to the drawing. You don't want to try to mimic another drawing, because you always lose something when you do that.
And what is your time frame for the entire job?
It takes me about 3 days per page, I'd say, between pencils and roughs, you know, all that, inking, any revisions, inking and coloring.
So 6 pages, 18, and some page,
Yep.
21.
Roughly.
Roughly.
Yeah, I can do it faster, but that's mostly just staying up all night.
Yeah, no sleep.
Nights in a row.
That's no sleep and cutting all corners.
Yes. But here's another important thing about coloring is this is the size that I color at right here on the board. You can't, this is only a 50% zoom. I can zoom in, you know, to ridiculous levels, but I don't want to work at this level when I'm coloring, because this is going to print, you know, this head is going to print that big on the page. So if I paint this thing to a level of detail that looks good at this size here visually on the computer screen, all that's going to be a waste of time when it comes to the actual printing. So my color is actually very sloppy looking. If I take away the inks, that color looks terrible at this level, all zoomed in at 200%. But you add the inks and you zoom out, to a level that's more of print, you know, what it's going to look like in print. Now it comes together and it looks good. And this is all I care about. I don't care what it looks like zoomed in at 300%. I could care less. I want it to look good at this size in print. And this is, where's that issue? I brought it in here. This is what it looked like in print. So the color pops and it looks nice. I'll bring it over here. It looks good, and you know, it doesn't matter what it looks like at 300% on my computer screen. So, that's the movie and TV parody process. If I can answer a few more questions if you want.
Do you ever get really into a show because you have to do the parodies? Any shows that you really want to do a parody of?
Well, that's a good question actually. Some shows I end up becoming addicted to and continue to watch, like Lost, for example, and then some shows I never watch again. Like, fortunately, I've never had to watch another episode of This Is Us since this. Hi Tom, I've been following you for many years. I noticed you upgraded to the new Cintiq model. How often do you upgrade your hardware? Boy, I think I had the 24-inch HD Cintiq for probably about three years. About every 3 years or so, I upgrade. And I always just covet the new version of whatever comes out, but you don't need it right away. But yeah, that's I can't talk enough about the Cintiq and the Wacom products because I've been using them really since the first Cintiq came out, and they were a total game changer for me. I used to color digitally, you know, on a tablet looking at my computer screen, and that worked fine. I was able to do it, but it's nothing like, I mean, it's so much more natural to look at your hand and actually being able to do it like you're really working on paper. It's a huge game changer.
How big are the original pages again?
A typical page size is about, this page itself is 17 inches wide, the actual paper. So, and it's 21.5 inches tall. So the art is, you know, somewhere in there.
Do you try to tackle one character or actor at a time for the pencils and final inks?
No, I don't try to draw them one at a time. I go through the whole story. So if I have to draw the same person, you know, once a page, I don't draw them again till the next page, and I'm actually doing it. I work out the whole page as I go.
Okay, that was actually Jim Batts, and he's wondering if I'm going to watch the new Millionaire tonight. I'll have to tape that. That will be good. The kids are coming over. How do you choose the right color since the color on screen is different than the print color? That's
a good question. Actually, I have a palette. I can kind of show you that. I have a palette that I use for the color. Let's see, I got to get to the right thing here. Mad, miscellaneous. What you're referring to, of course, is that a screen can't really show you the CMYK colors that are going to happen in print correctly. So this is my face palette. That's Bobby Knight. It's a caricature I did of him in Mad many years ago, and I really liked how the colors turned out with his flesh tones. So I use this as my basis for a lot of my flesh tones, and then I'll add extra colors in as we go. So I just know that these particular flesh tones look good in print, and then I eyeball calibrate my monitor based on how things look in print. And print, you know, jobs don't always turn out the same, of course, either. One printer's a little bit different color-wise, but I calibrate my monitor so my warm colors, like my flesh tones, tend to look pretty close to print color, but that means the blues and cooler colors tend to be a lot more saturated. So I have to be careful how saturated I make this blue, you know, shirt of hers. I have to try to tone it down, otherwise it's going to look really garish.
Victoria says, hi, Mom and Dad. Hi, baby. What are you bench pressing these days?
I'm not, because I've got a double hernia, and I was supposed to have surgery on it yesterday, and it got canceled, so who knows when I'll be back in the gym.
When you create your parodies for your crowdfunding campaign, will you be using a similar layout as the Mad Parodies, or have more freedom with word bubble placement?
Well, actually, I think I would prefer to stick with the traditional Mad sort of layouts. I mean, we may do some more, a few things since we're not constrained by that. But for me, I think this particular format is sort of classic, and part of the whole reason that we're going to do this is we want that genre to continue. So I'd like to kind of stick with the Mad look. I mean, we're going to do the square word boxes, the nesting word boxes, the panels, the pages that are slightly different. Mad, the way Mad lays out their parodies, you notice that usually the word boxes are the same height all the way across a page and all the way across a panel. And you don't see staggered word boxes. It's a very specific formula. And we are going to do that for the Kickstarter. And if what people are wondering what we're talking about, Desmond Devlin and I are going to be announcing, should be by the end of the month, a Kickstarter for a book of movie parodies that we're doing.
That Mad has not done.
Yeah, it's going to be new movies that Mad's not doing movie parodies anymore. They stopped doing that now that they've switched to a reprint format. New stuff, they're going to reprint old parodies, but they're not going to do any new ones. So we're gonna do our own. So it's going to be probably between 8 and a dozen parodies in this book. We're going to do a combination of new movies and classics that Mad never did. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and look for that. I'll be announcing it on my website hopefully by the end of the month. Working on the artwork for the first one right now. So,
are you planning a second edition of your Art of Caricature book?
I was working on a second edition of the Art of Caricature book, but I put that on hold mainly because of this parody book that Des and I are doing.
What ink do you use in your pens?
I use a Pelican's Drawing Ink A is the type of ink I use.
Has there ever been a character you just couldn't seem to capture the likeness of?
There are ones that I wasn't as happy with the likeness as I would have liked to have been, I guess. But sometimes I go back and look at ones that I realize, I missed that person and I can do a better job now. But I can't think of any off the top of my head.
Do you feel you've changed your style through the years?
My style has evolved, I think, quite a bit. If I look at work I did 10 years ago, it's not the same as the work I do today, which is a good thing. That just means you're pushing yourself to improve, and you don't rest on your laurels, and you're constantly striving to do better and expand your horizons.
Oh, Justin Lou says, how does it feel being the best illustrator in the world right now? That's very lovely.
Oh, yeah, I guess you can ask Mort Drucker.
Victoria's might be bringing some more Claire's for us.
Okay. Well, I think we can probably wrap this up. It's been about 50 minutes. This has been fun. I'm going to make this a regular Wednesday night thing. I'm going to do a live video here. Next time I'll do some demonstrations of some techniques. Maybe I'll do a digital coloring thing. If you guys want to tell me what you want me to do or want me to try. I did a live caricature demo the other day. That's on my YouTube channel. Also, I'll be transcribing this, or however you want to call it, re-recording it, or uploading it onto my YouTube channel.
Yeah, so just watch for times on Facebook. Oh, John wants to know, do all bald guys have the same shaped heads?
Do all bald guys have the same shaped heads?
That's funny.
No.
That's funny. Yeah, so just look, he'll put it out there when he's going to do another one. We will do more.
Mm-hmm. So stay safe, everybody. Stay healthy. Stay home.
Wash your hands.
And thanks for being here. Take care.